Things are changing. The Kansas City Chiefs have the week off, but they are getting ready for their first contest of the AFC playoffs, adding some names, changing some names, and some people around the league have some comments on some of this. Let's get into it today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the college football championship. We are recording as it's on right now, so you may hear me just get a little bit distracted. It's like I have something else to do. It's called the draft show. Yeah, there's that. So if thanks for making us your first listen. If you check out the NFL draft show, we would appreciate that as well. Croc and I put a lot into it, including breaking down this game. Going to be a lot there. We're brought to you tonight by PrizePicks, and our Locked On Chiefs fans get a really nice deal from them. You can pick 2 to 5 players, make that entry, and you get 10 times your money back on that entry. And first-time depositors get 100% bonus with our code Locked On at PrizePicks.com. So we have to get into it. There's a lot, and there's perspective that's involved in all of this. I'm interested to see where that comes because I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, somebody that does a lot of draft work, and then NFL 33, where you can see my draft rankings and RGR football, and I'll come up with something else at some point.
Yeah, and I'm Chris Clark. Thank you all for listening. Go hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell if you can on YouTube. We do appreciate those. And, send us some reviews on Spotify or iTunes. I still have a cough, so I apologize ahead of time if I cough while I'm talking. I just want to say really quick, I know what we're going to talk about. I know the focus of what we're going to talk about. But I did find it interesting. Kansas City was making some moves on Monday. They brought in Slade Bolden. They didn't sign him, but they did bring in John Ross, and they signed him to a futures contract. That's interesting to me.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about this a little bit, I want to say last year, and it's worth the signings for the upside, right? The possibility. If you were to look back right now, say, 6 months, the New York Giants thought Kadarius Toney was a wasted effort. They thought that they had completely missed the mark and that he was not going to be able to contribute in any meaningful way to an NFL roster. Well, guess what? On a different NFL roster, that can be true. Now, John Ross has had a couple of stops, so there's a little bit more to his story. But just like Kadarius Toney, a castaway from the Giants, John Ross, a castaway, could find a way to contribute in a different system, in a system that utilizes his skills, in a system that lets you be who you are, and that is a speed demon that's even faster than McCole Hardman. I know he's had some injuries, but on tape, he still looks just as fast, if not faster than McCole to me.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is the injuries, and that's the big question that came with Kadarius Toney. And you start looking at what Kansas City has. They have Rick Burkholder, who's one of the best in the NFL, getting players ready to go. We will see if it continues with Toney. Obviously, there's still a little bit of question there. We'll see if he can work on that for next year. Maybe he can work with John Ross to get him ready to go for next year. And don't forget, they still have Justin Ross, too, that is on IR, among other players.
Yeah, absolutely. The law firm of Ross and Ross may be a storyline all off season, to tell you the truth, because if the Chiefs do feel that they have something in either of the Rosses, it does affect the plans, because I think wide receivers in the top 3 positions of need for this roster when we get to the off season. We'll talk about that ad nauseum, I guarantee you, when we are past the Chiefs Super Bowl
That's interesting. I don't know that I would agree. I don't know that I would agree with the top 3, but I understand why you're saying that.
That's cool. See, now these are the discussions we have to have after the Chiefs get their next Super Bowl. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? Yes.
And thank you. That's exactly why we're going to be talking about what we're getting ready to talk about.
That said, was it Freifogel that was signed as well today, correct? I do believe.
I'm not sure. I apologize.
Stocking up on no worries. Stocking up on pass catchers that have the potential to maybe try to contribute later. And I think that's the best thing about what the system that Brett Veach and Andy Reid have developed is that if you have an aspect, and this is something that I have to go through every draft year, it's not necessarily, are you the clear number 1 pick because you have a completely well-rounded game and you have multiple high-level skill sets. That makes you a top pick, right? But there are plenty of guys that contribute in this league that have a skill. Not a set, but a skill. And if you can take the ball deep and run away from coverage, That is a skill. If you have the size to go up and high point the ball against coverage, that is a skill. And so I think what they've done is they've developed this philosophy that if you have a skill on film that we can identify that can help us, we'll try to grow around that skill, but we'll let you emphasize what you do well and see if you can help us win. And that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of turnover this year with this Chiefs roster. And you have to remember, this Chiefs roster is extremely young. There are so many rookies on this roster. And that's something that we haven't thought about and haven't really talked about at all this season, is how young this roster really is when you start looking at it. And the funny thing about how young this roster is Patrick Mahomes is the elder statesman at QB in the AFC playoffs.
Oof. Say that 5 times fast. I was not prepared for you to say that. Thank you very much. I get older every year, as much as I tell my wife I don't. It's true. And here's the thing.
He's 27.
I know. It's crazy, right?
He's the oldest QB in the playoffs at 27 years old.
Make it stop. Stop saying that. I'm not ready to hear that.
My point is, he's been starting for 5 years. My whole point is that he is going to be the guy that everybody's going to be chasing for the next several years. That's just the way it's going to be. And that is going to get us into where we're going to go after this next break.
Yeah, chasing's tough. And despite my age, if you are this young kind of roster, there's some things that you need to learn in the process. And because you're a professional athlete, your taxes are kind of tough. A word from our friends at TurboTax right now. You can go there right now. And this is the fun part. Go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who will do them for you. That's the big thing. It used to be do it all on your own at home, and experts can relieve that stress of doing the taxes, and they can file things for you. You can show your eyes things that are not taxes. Move away from packing boxes and not taxes. Taste things, not do taxes. There is that all the obstacles in life the taxes take away from, this will help you. With TurboTax, an expert will do your taxes from start to finish, ensuring your taxes are done right. It is guaranteed. So that you can relax. And it feels good to be done with your taxes, doesn't it? So you can go do some other things. Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com and learn more. Intuit TurboTax. It's a full-service products only. Video meeting while the expert does your taxes is required. See the guarantee and all the details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Now, one thing that is not guaranteed is our other friends over at PrizePicks. This is fun, and you don't get a guarantee, but you get to make the difference. Right now, for this particular playoff game, the one that I think Chiefs fans are going to be most interested in is Jags versus Chargers. And right now, Justin Herbert's line is set at 275.5. All you have to do is go decide if he's going to do more than that or less than that. Trevor Lawrence, on the other hand, is set for 245 in this matchup. Same thing. Do you think he throws for more than 245.5 or less? You put 2 to 5 of those entries together, player picks together, and that's an entry. And with that entry, you can earn up to 10 times of your entry amount. We're here to help you do it. You can play any of the major sports, but obviously this is the highlight of football betting season. You want to get in on it. It's fast, it's quick, it's safe, and it's available in 30 states plus Canada. Go try this out. It's at PrizePicks.com. It's also available with the PrizePicks apps, which you can get on any app store. And this is how you play daily fantasy sports. 2 to 5 entries. That entry goes in. You get a 100% deposit bonus when you use our code Locked On. And so that money that you put in, $50 or up to $100, gets doubled into your account so that you can go lay that out on the line. I think that it's worth checking it out. And I think you guys are going to be really happy with it. That promo code is Locked On, and it's at PrizePicks.com. Now, as we come off of making some fun bets,
you did it again on the line. I love it.
Hey, whenever I can squeeze that in there, I try to. It's not like the Caesars commercial with my guy, but it is what it is.
Yeah. You start looking at what this is going to mean for Kansas City over the next couple of seasons. I really do think, and I think that you're starting to see this across the NFL. There are players on those teams that are really feeling like the Chiefs are being disrespectful to the NFL with different things that they're doing, and it's really starting to piss them off. Yeah, winning, running a snuggle play. Plenty to talk about there, but I have to ask you a question because you actually were talking about the Chargers in the ad. What did you think about Staley leaving all of his starters in and getting 2 of them hurt? 3 of them hurt, actually.
This is the chance that you take. Now, I can understand you start the game that way because really up until just before their kickoff, they thought they were going to need their stars. They thought they had to win. That did not end up being the case, but you had your game plan in, you had everything prepared. Like, I can understand playing that. And obviously the Broncos kept it close. They ended up winning, right? So like, there was an impetus to keep that up. But at some point, you have to think farther down the road, knowing that you have a playoff berth. And you got to pull those guys. I could see playing them for a half. I would have yanked them at that point. Probably more so. But when you're in the thick of it, I can understand if you've coached at any level, it's hard to say I'm going to pull my guys and we'll just live with the consequences. But in hindsight, it's always 2020. It always tells you, hey, you made a mistake.
Well, Mike Williams, it could be out this next week. We don't know. We'll see. Joey Bosa got hurt too. Yeah. If I was their coach, I would have been pulling Bosa. I would have been pulling Derwin James, and I would have been pulling Mike Williams and maybe Keenan Allen. And obviously, you could consider taking out Herbert as well with his injury history this season. But those are the guys I would have been taking out. I wouldn't have had to play.
I mean, certainly Mike and Keenan, right? Because they both had significant injuries. Joey as well, right? Like, there's certain keys to what you do that you have to protect. And I do think it was a miscalculation. Now we got to remember, he's a fairly young coach. He's aggressive, certainly. But this is the backside of making that decision. It has. We talked about the 4th down stuff all last year. We'll probably still be talking about it. But this is the cost of being an overly aggressive coach. And I generally subscribe to the philosophy of be aggressive up to the point that it costs you. Well, you found where that line is. This cost you.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see if all the guys are going to be able to play. It's not a good sign when Mike Williams has to be carted to the locker room.
Right.
And carted to the team bus.
And I got to tell you, if Mike Williams doesn't play and they survive, the Chiefs have to hope that he doesn't play again because Mike Williams is singularly the matchup that bothers me the most about the Chiefs playing the Chargers again.
Yep. Yeah, it would be really bad to see him a third time. Although I will say that I think that if he is available in the Chiefs, if they play the Chargers, I don't think he's going to be 100%. And I would be shocked if he finishes the game.
Now, don't get me wrong. I don't really the idea of Joey Bosa on Andrew Wiley either, but Mike scares me a little bit more.
Right.
That said, knowing that those 2 teams were playing each other, the AFC West is not really panned out the way that a lot of national heads thought so. We were closer, but honestly, it didn't even work out as well as I thought it would. Are you surprised about the way that it's come down and what we saw last weekend?
I am. I will say this. I didn't get to watch the entire Broncos-Chargers game, but you saw a little bit of the old Russell Wilson at the very end of the half.
Yep.
That long ball to Jerry Jeudy is the old Russell Wilson. If he can do that, that completely changes their offense and their team. Yeah.
That combined with Courtland Sutton, if he gets back to where he was pre-injury, then he will be, like I said, the guy that overtakes Keenan Allen for second best now in the division. Devontae is still Devontae, as long as Devontae's here. I know that he technically doesn't have a solid out. He could request a trade. He could do a number of things. I don't buy that without Derek Carr there that Devontae Adams really wants to be a Raider. We'll see what kind of sales job Josh McDaniels does, but everybody is in the same situation they were last year. Everybody's still chasing Kansas City, and that's the way it's going to be for right now. Well, Chargers have the last chance.
Yeah, look at all the moves that were made that didn't make a difference.
Right.
Khalil
Nearly
Mack.
$1 billion spent, was it?
Yeah, something like that. It's ridiculous. And it hasn't changed anything when it comes to how this team is played and Kansas City being 14-3. And I will say, and I think it was Mitchell Schwartz that pointed this out, 14-3, it was either Mitchell or Jeff, one of the two. 14-3 in a retooling year, because that's what this was supposed to be for Kansas City.
Yep.
They have so many young players. This was supposed to be a retooling year, and they went 14-3 and have the number 1 seed in the playoffs.
And this is a good week to take stock of that. We should probably do that after the break because I know I'm going to go long here. But this is interesting because of what we're seeing the evolution of the Kansas City Chiefs become, because of not only how many rookies are playing this year, but how many second-year players, and how many young guys overall are going to be on this roster next year, how you take a quarterback leaping through time in order to stay that quarterback. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to watch what this division has tried to do, and it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to try to evolve to try to chase Kansas City, because at this point, that's what they're doing. And we will be talking about that a little bit more on the back side of this, but I want to tell you about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So here's the thing. Tom Brady had to survive eras of the New England Patriots. I think that's what we're starting to see here in Kansas City as well, because the rookie class and the sophomore class are putting in so many snaps, providing so much effort. This is the retool year.
To be clear.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that goes hand in hand. Otherwise, we'd just be talking about the crashing of the Kansas City Chiefs. But yet again, we're talking about a fifth AFC championship in a row. That's the goal, and it looks attainable at this point. I'm not trying to jinx it, folks. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's certainly attainable at this point. So that said, this looks to be in the retooling year, like Mitch called it. It's shifting forward to where the youth comes in and the rookie contracts come in, and now you have the opportunity to leapfrog to the next era of at least personnel. I don't know if the offense is going to change a whole lot. It isn't like last season where there's a paradigm shift in the way teams choose to defend against the Chiefs. Honestly, I think they all let their guards down. You and I called it. I had them at this record at 14-3 in the preseason. I think you had them the same, or 13-4. We were right there.
I think I had them at 13-4.
Yeah. The rest of the league didn't see it. They didn't think they could get here without Tyreek in particular, but in general, going through losses. And that's a testament to both these young classes, but also to the coaching staff, and quite frankly, the entire front office that has been able to restock on the move this entire roster.
Well, and they have the best player in the NFL. That's bar none.
Yes.
That's it. You have Patrick Mahomes, you can do just about whatever you want, and you're going to be competitive. You have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. You're probably going to be sitting in a spot where you could be going for the Super Bowl again. And honestly, that's the thing that, I think we talked about a little bit, but with Chris Jones, I didn't expect him back in 2023. At this point, I think you have to find a way to get a contract extension done. He's still playing at such a high level, and I did not expect that. I love Chris Jones. I love the energy he brings to this team. I just did not expect him to be able to do what he was doing this year. And it looks like he had a little bit of a resurgence under Joe Cullen.
Agreed. And that can continue. And I think he does have to come back, despite what some other teams around the division want.
Yeah, and let's talk about those other teams around the division and your boy Quinn Miners in particular.
I like my guy Quinn. He says what he thinks, and I appreciate that.
He does not like that the Chiefs have continued to beat the Broncos year in and year out, and I get that. As a competitor, that's not what you want to do at all. You don't want to be dealing with that. But he specifically said that the snuggle play was disrespectful. And I see that coming from different talking heads all over the internet. You have Patriots people talking about how it was disrespectful. I've seen Bills and Bengals people say how it's disrespectful. And I'm sitting here going, the last time I checked, the point of an NFL game is to score as many points as you can and confuse the piss out of the defense if you're on offense.
It's a good way to put it. And let's be real, people. It's a huddle. It's not like they did anything bending the rules or pushing the envelope or some nasty pick play that didn't get called. It was a huddle. Shut up. No one cares.
But it's awesome because the way it goes back to, and I'm trying to remember what team it was in the AFC that I've seen do this, but it goes back to there's a couple of teams in the AFC that have gone to quick snap type things where, I'm sorry, They rush to the line. They basically snap it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
They don't give a chance to defense to set. That's basically what this play was.
In the end, it was window dressing. Honestly, they should be more concerned about the fact that they weren't able to defend the actual play than the huddle, because the huddle didn't have anything. Now, I disagree that it is disrespectful. I completely disagree with that. But I will say this, and I hope Quinn Miners sees this. If you are a Broncos fan and you find this through your, more successful Chiefs fans that are your friends, make sure that Quinn sees this. I like Quinn. I am a big proponent of him. When he came out from a tiny school, I was in his corner. I will say this. I appreciate that he's honest and that he's willing to speak his mind truthfully. And it's always a good thing to want things in your life. Quinn, in a couple of seasons, when your rookie contract's up, you'll have availability. I suggest that you get on the bandwagon that goes round and round and round. It's in Kansas City.
And you know what? I'll quite honestly, like, if the Broncos were in the same boat and they were able to run a play like that and make it look like they were having fun, I don't think it'd be an issue. I think that's the funniest thing about all this to me, is that he is just continuing, or you're looking at this specific play and saying that is ridiculous, that is disrespectful to the league. Okay, that's disrespectful to the league. What about putting Colin Saunders in at running back and having him run a freaking wheel route out of the backfield?
Which would have scored. I'm just saying.
Okay, here's the funny thing about that. Somebody put out, I think it was Baldy, and I'm sorry, I'm really struggling. I think Baldy put out a video, and I think I retweeted it from the Locked On account. If you start it at the very beginning, you can't even tell Mike Burton is on the field because Saunders is just so big. You can barely see Mike's leg. That's all you can see.
I will definitely talk to Mike about that in the offseason, because that will be probably the first thing I ask him about, is what that's like to block for a man that's, 100 pounds heavier than you. It's just got to be fun. But I will say this too, in all due respect to Quinn Miners, the fact that he wants to make a statement about that when he wasn't even the team that was, I haven't heard any of the Raiders defenders say anything about it. Like, I would think that they would be more disrespected by the Saunders play than the fact that they did some ring around the rosy huddle. I haven't heard any of that. And so the fact that you're lashing out about something that you watched as a spectator, that tells me one thing. And this is, again, the thing that I love about Quinn Miners. He's a competitor, and he's pissed off about losing to the Chiefs continually. For much longer than he's been a Bronco. I hate to tell you, Quinn, it's worse than it even feels to you. But that's the thing, is like, I can see that guy going somewhere else and having success because he does genuinely care about it. And it's just frustration about getting your butt handed to you all the time.
You know what I love about it, though? It means the Chiefs are living rent-free in the entire division's heads.
There's that.
And don't forget, Andy Reid did the hungry pig right.
Right.
He's
always had trick plays, especially with the line.
That was against the Broncos.
Oh, was it? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was against the Broncos, and they were up big at the time. So it was almost a very similar play to what they did against the Raiders.
I mean, come on. It's the last game of the season. Just trying to have a little fun here, okay?
You look at what this is going to mean for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes has done things in a Chiefs uniform that I never thought I would see a Chiefs QB do. And he is continually getting better and continually improving. And I need to try to get back in touch with Bobby Stroop, because I want to have him on, if we can, at some point in the near future, to talk about this, because he actually pointed something out earlier. Mahomes said something about how he's the oldest QB in the AFC playoffs. And Bobby's comment was, yeah, but how old's his body? That is a huge flipping key that I don't think anybody ever talks about.
True.
The work that he puts in, the ability for him to do what he does, is because of the work he puts in the offseason and the training he does. I guarantee you his body is a lot younger than what you think his mind is. And
that's going to come in handy, because, again, we're talking about longevity here, not just performance, but longevity, being within striking distance of championships year after year after year. And the other thing that I thought that he said was really interesting, I would expect this, but to come out and say it is very obvious. He's going to pick Tom Brady's brain once Tom is retired, next week, and then he'll unretire a couple of weeks after that.
When Tom Brady's in the Raiders next year,
Right.
He'll be able to talk to him twice in the same season, and then maybe after Brady retires after next year. I don't know. We'll see.
We will see.
Shout out to the Detroit Lions, by the way. I just have to say that was quite a thing to stick it to your divisional opponent.
Hey, it's the ultimate spoiler, right? Everybody wants to do it. Everybody's happy when they can. Let us know what you think. How disrespectful was this ring around the rosies thing? Snow globe huddle. Is national media making much ado about nothing, or are you with us? I'd love to hear your comments. Put them on the YouTube channel in the comments there, or on the Spotify reviews, or in the iTunes reviews. We would love to hear it. We are going to have a good week this week. Matt and Derek will be with us tomorrow, so make sure you're ready for that. Special coming up later in the week, right?
Yep. Yeah, I confirmed with Mark Schofield. We are talking to Mark Schofield. He will be on Thursday's show to talk about everything QB Patrick Mahomes related, or as I like to say, MVP2, because he's going to be an MVP for the second time in his career.
That's me knocking on wood. Yep. And then, of
course,
course,
anybody else, I don't understand. Like, people are trying to make an argument that Jalen Hurts. I'm not even going to say the name of somebody that said Jalen Hurts would be just as good in the Chiefs offense as Patrick Mahomes is, and Mahomes wouldn't be as good in the Eagles offense. That was actually said today on radio. And yeah.
Yeah.
Give Patrick Mahomes, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith. He may throw for 6,000 yards.
But it's the wrong Kelsey brother.
Unless Andy Reid pulls the reins in, and then maybe not. But
there's that.
AJ Brown could probably get 2,000 yards with Mahomes as his QB. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Hey, and there are a lot of changes coming around the league. There are coaches getting fired. Not as many as I expected, actually. There's a couple of GM searches underway. Some of that will lead to some players being available. But maybe we don't think so right now.
Actually, that's a good question that I wanted to ask you, and I apologize I didn't bring it up earlier. Cliff Kingsbury. Mm-hmm. Any interest if there's an opening in Kansas City? There won't be for a coach, for a head coach, but maybe for, I don't know, QB coach.
I mean, here's the thing is you can make up any title that you want. Passing game coordinator, passing game slappy, for all I care. The question becomes is, what does Patrick think? I don't think there's any problem with Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. I don't think their egos are too big to let Cliff in the building. Clearly being a head coach was too much for Cliff Kingsbury. I argue that that's been the case for quite a while before he was in the NFL. So my only question will be, is there still enough creativity that can be part of a team without being the figurehead? And does it actually move Patrick forward? Because the last thing that I would want to do is have relationships for some reason move Patrick backward, where he was a little more YOLO back in college and that kind of thing. So that would be my only qualm. But it will require one thing, and that will be Eric Bieniemy moving on to another position with another franchise somewhere or a college team. And I just don't know if that's going to happen. If it does, Matt Nagy should be the offensive coordinator. It should not be Cliff Kingsbury, but I could see him being in the building.
Yeah. And honestly, if Bieniemy's still here, if they want to bring in Kingsbury, they still could.
It just has to be, one of those special title roles.
Yep.
And hey, crazier things have happened. That's for sure. The longer you cover this sport, and for the short time that I worked in this sport, you realize it is a much smaller world than it appears to the outside. So,
and I guess the reason I bring it up is just because I think it's interesting because he did so much for Patrick from high school to college, and I think that there's a lot there. There's a good relationship there. I think it could work out really well. The question is, does he want to come in and learn? Because that's really what he's going to have to do if he comes in under Andy Reid. He's going to have to learn.
Absolutely. That is a great way to put it, because right now I would argue Patrick Mahomes is the more competent in his role.
No, I agree. But I think Kingsbury has the opportunity with the relationship there. I think that they could bring out even more.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
It'd be interesting. That's really my takeaway. I wasn't shocked that he was let go from the Cardinals, but it'd be interesting.
Let us know what you think of that as well. Are you on the Kingsbury bandwagon for quarterback mentor coach number 7? What would you guys like to see? Leave us those comments as well. We'd like to see them. Thanks for spending your time with us today. Big week coming. And then we'll have some special prep for the wild card week as we all wait to see who the Chiefs' opponent will actually be the next time they're on the field. Thanks for spending your day with us. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.